Next, we'd like to transition to design. So if you all know, and most of you practice this every day, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign remain the true cornerstone for your design suite. And we continue to drive innovations and enhancements and performance improvements every generation of the product that we release. In fact, since I was on stage at Max last year, we've released 100 new features across Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. So continue to push the envelope there. At the same time, as we discussed earlier, the content velocity and the rapid pace of change that you're all facing right now just places demands for you to create new types of content faster and faster than ever before. And so to share with you how we're going to help you get better respond to the demands being placed on you in terms of creative content, I'd like to invite Paul Gubbay to the stage. Paul?
Design is infused within everything that we do. Whether you are summoning your car or choosing which song to play on a speaker in your house, chances are there was deep design thinking behind it. Somebody was passionate enough, bold enough to break the established rules and take something as simple as turning a thermostat and change it into a delightful experience. But design is more than just putting pixels on a screen. Great design defines how we all interact with the world, and a great design team knows how to marry aesthetics with a deep, deep understanding of workflow, because great design teams don't just design, they build great experiences. So, how do you do it? How do you build a great experience? Well, it takes constant iteration, which means you need to design, prototype, and share, and do it again, and again, and again, and again, until you get it right. And we all know this is not a simple task. Today's modern designer is an acrobat, jumping across multiple tools, plugins, services, solutions, users, and stakeholders in order to get the job done. Now, over the last 2 decades, Adobe has fundamentally changed the way that the world designs with tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Millions of designers use these tools every day to create everything from logos on icons to websites and applications. But you've told us that visual design by itself is not enough to create a great experience. You need to augment those tools with services that will allow you to design, prototype, and share. And that is why we created Adobe XD. Now, we first shared XD with you on this stage last year as Project Comet. And we told you that XD would be different. XD would allow you to design at the speed of thought. And that is a phrase that we take very seriously on the team. So what does it mean? Well, for the first thing, XD was built from the ground up from performance. Everything you do in XD is lightning fast. But it's more than just speed. We've reimagined the experience of using a design system. We've rethought about the tools, the UI, and the workflow to make sure this is the most productive design system that you'll work in. And we have combined design, prototype, and share into one system. We've removed the friction so we can all focus on building a great experience. We also established an entirely new product development process with XD. We chose to build it out in the open as a public beta so that we could work with thousands of community members and incorporate your feedback into the product we're building that we will all love and use together. And the feedback in response to the public beta has been phenomenal. As you can see from this quote above me, designers love XD. So today, I am really excited not only to show you the latest version of XD, but to talk with you about the future of design at Adobe that you are helping us define. So to help us get started with the first part of that journey, please help me welcome to the stage Joan Lafferty to show us the latest release of Adobe XD.
Thanks, Paul. So I've been working on XD for some time, so I have to say I'm just so honored to be here to represent a really amazing team who's here and to tell you where XD is today. Adobe XD is a vector design tool that lets you build beautiful experiences. It was built from the ground up, really to help designers just move faster. All of you guys, even those way in the back there. So, all right, so let's dive right in here. So as Paul mentioned, in the tool, you can design, you can prototype, and then you can iterate really quickly on that design by getting feedback. So we're going to start right here with design. So I've been working on this Surf Finder application with another designer, and he might be here today if he's not out surfing the waves. So you'll see that all of the screens of this application are represented by artboards right here on the canvas. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a single properties panel, and this is contextual. So depending on what you have selected here on the canvas, it'll change. Then on the left-hand side, we have layers. And layers are actually new to this update of XD. And just like the properties panel, it's contextual too. So when I start going in here and working on an artboard, I don't see all of the layers in the entire document. I only see the layers for that particular artboard here. And I have to say, that makes me work a lot faster, helps me find things and organize my document just a lot more efficiently. So let's start working on this design here. So I need to work on this search results screen, and this is going to have a list of beaches that somebody could surf at. Now, normally if I was creating a list, I would go in here, I would take that first item, copy and paste this over and over and over again. And then when I want to change styles or layout, I would have to do that for every single one of these items. And you guys are probably really used to this, but it gets really tedious. But in XD, I don't have to do that. Instead, I'm going to use the Repeat Grid tool. So just like the contextual properties panel and layers, Repeat Grid is another example of how XD is taking its tools, trying to reinvent them for productivity. So I'm going to take this first item, make it into a repeat grid, and now I can extend this out and create all of the list items that I need. And then I'm going to go in here and change some of the layout, and you can see that any change I make on one, it's going to be reflected on every single one of those list items. But I definitely don't want all of these images or the text here to be the same, and the repeat grid offers me that flexibility. So I can go into Finder, I can grab a bunch of unique images that I have here, and I can just drag those right in to my list, and they automatically populate. And then I can do, yeah, it's cool. I can do the same thing with a text file. So here's my text file, I'm going to drop that in, and it's done. And really here, I'm done. So the repeat grid makes it really easy to work with repeating content on a single artboard. But now I need to repeat content across my document in lots of different artboards. So let's look at a few other screens here. So right here, I've got a couple of screens where somebody would be booking their surf instruction. And I want to take this continue button and actually reuse that on a couple of different artboards. The best way to do that is with symbols. And so with this first release of symbols in XD, you can take any object or group, make that into a symbol, and then now I can take instances of that symbol into all of the other artboards where I need it. And then, just like the repeat grid, I can edit that symbol right here on the canvas, and I see how that's going to affect all of my other instances. So let's go in here, we'll change the color really quickly. You can see how these changes happen right here. So this actually becomes really powerful as you start using more and more symbols across your document. So right here on this artboard, I'm actually using a symbol for the yellow background here. And I'd like to play with maybe some more unique styles, make this flow in the application look a little bit different. So when I do that, you can see that any change I make here on the canvas just happens throughout the document. It doesn't matter how many artboards or symbols I have here. All of these changes, they'll happen instantaneously. This right here is the speed of XD. All right, so I'm done with my design. Now I'm ready to create something interactive. And you know what? I don't have to install any plugins. I don't have to switch tools. I'm going to do it right here in prototype mode. All right, so we'll close up the layers. Now that I'm in prototype mode, really I can take any object and make that into a button that will transition to another screen. So right here, I'm actually going to choose this search result for Cardiff Reef Beach. And when somebody clicks on that, I want them to get taken to this beach details screen. And that'll give them some more information about the weather, the tide, the sharks, like anything you need to know before you go and risk your life out there, right? So I get some options here for the transition, and we'll make a couple of changes, and then we'll see how that looks. All right, so here is your search results screen. I can scroll through it, works nicely, and I can click right here on Cardiff Reef, and I see that interaction that we just created. So this looks pretty good, but I have to say these are mobile app screens, and I'm never really fully confident with my design until I see it running on a device. I want to know that those tap areas I created and those fonts I chose, that they actually work, right? Well, I'm excited to share with you that Adobe XD is now available for mobile on iOS and Android. So with this first release of the mobile apps, they support live device preview. So while I'm working here, I'm also previewing right here on the device. So right here on my device, I can go ahead and I can tap on Cardiff Reef, just like we did on the desktop, and I see how that transition is going to look right here on the device. And that makes me feel a lot better. But what's even better, actually, is designing live with this application. So right here, when I'm looking at this screen, I look at the button, and I'm like, you know what? That's actually a little bit too small, and the text is kind of really hard to see. So I'm going to go back here in design mode to that beach details screen, and I'm actually going to edit this particular button here. And we'll edit the size of that, as well as the text here. And as I'm doing this, you can see that the updates to the text happen just really instantaneously right there. Yeah, that's really hard to do. One of our engineers spent a bit of time on that. But the reason it's so fast is because XD is not sending bitmaps down to your phone. It's actually a full version of Adobe XD running right here on these mobile devices. So as you can imagine, preview is just the beginning of where we want to take these mobile apps. All right, so I'm now done with my design. I've created an interactive prototype. I've even looked at it on device. I'm now ready to get feedback from my team. And you know what? I'm not going to switch tools to do that. I'm going to do it right here with the Share Online feature in XD. So with one click, I'm now creating an interactive prototype that I can see in the browser and share with my team. So let's see how that's going to look. So this is how it looks here. This is a link that I can share with my team. They can view it, they can interact with it, and now they can also leave comments and get feedback right here in the browser. So this right here was just a quick look at how really Adobe XD makes my entire design process just run a lot smoother, from visual design to an interactive prototype, and then finally getting feedback from my team.
Awesome. Thank you, Joan. Everything you've just seen, the XD running on Mac, the iOS, and the Android preview apps, all available today in the latest public beta of XD that you'll be able to download and start working with right away. And in this latest release, including the symbols and the layers work that Joan just showed you, you really have everything you need to be successful doing production work inside of XD. So you might say, well, if I have everything I need, why is this still a public beta? And there's a reason for that. When we first decided to build XD, we chose to build this as a platform. And for us, that meant that designers would be able to access it on every surface where they need to be able to access it. And while we have some very important surfaces up there, you will note that one of them is missing, and that is Windows. Now, when we looked at the beginning of this year of building XD on Windows, we wanted to make decisions that would ensure that it would be future-proof. And for us, that meant building XD as a true Windows universal application. So we could take advantage of everything that Windows 10 has to offer, including the latest APIs for touch, pen, and multi-device. In fact, we believe this is the most ambitious project that has ever been built as a universal Windows application. So for the first time, to see XD running on Windows, let's turn it back over to Joan again.
Thanks, Paul. All right, so I would say this is super exciting because Adobe XD is running right here on Windows 10 on this brand new Microsoft Surface Studio device. So you can work on this up like this if you wanted, which I do when I have a keyboard, but right now I don't have a keyboard, so I'm going to work on it down like this, so you guys can see my face too. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually open up the same Surf Finder application that we were working on earlier today. And when I do that, you can see that right here, we've got all the same capabilities to design, to prototype, and then to iterate really quickly on that. But as Paul mentioned, the team really wanted to craft a unique experience here that takes advantage of both hardware and software capabilities of this platform. So I can actually go in here with touch, and I can pan around my canvas. I can zoom in on my design. It just works really smooth and nicely. I can go back here to design mode. I can use the tools. I can move things around. I can even go here in prototype mode and just quickly wire up some interactions like we were doing with the mouse earlier.
May I?
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're a Windows designer, you're really going to love this. This is
or
great.
if you're not a Windows designer, it's cool too. So XD also has support for the stylus. And so right here on the instructor detail screen, I'm actually going, or this is the beach result detail screen. I'm actually going to add in some text because I need a label right here. So I'm going in with the text tool. We'll put it maybe about right there. And this is going to say surf report. And I'm just writing here, and the text recognition technology is actually translating that directly into my design here, which is really nice. Neat, right? And so now that I've got this, I can go in here, I can scrub through some of my properties, and then just move that into place. So I don't like that color. All right, there we go. So the last thing I'm going to do is actually work on some vector art here. So on this instructor detail screen, there's an icon missing right here. And to build that icon, I'm going to do it with the stylus along with the XD pen tool.
Now, Joan, the pen tool in XD is one of the tools that the team has reimagined. Just tell us a little bit what's special about the pen tool.
Yeah, so the team's taken really all the functionality of different pen tools and combined them all in one. So you can add, you can delete anchor points, you can work with curves as well as sharp edges, and you only have one pen tool to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start drawing that wave right here. I don't know what the surf is quite like today, but maybe big or small. And you get the guides while you're doing that. And so there we go. And so right here, I've got the beginnings of my wave icon, and honestly, everything I need for screen design running beautifully right here on Windows.
That's awesome. That's great. So thank you. Front row. Just like everything else with XD, we're going to be doing this out in the open. So you'll be able to get your hands on the first public beta of XD for Windows by the end of this year. We're really excited for you guys to check it out. Now, when I first kicked off this section, I told you I was really excited to show you XD, which we've just done. But I also said I wanted to talk to you about the future of design. Now, we don't have a magic crystal ball at Adobe, but we have something even better. We have an amazing design community that we get to work with every day. And it's through those interactions that we get to see the challenges that designers and design teams are facing on a regular basis. So to help me discuss some of the challenges that today's design-led companies are facing, please help me welcome to the stage Alan Mask from Airbnb. Alan, good to see you. Another really tall guy. So Alan, gosh, everybody knows what Airbnb does, of course, but for designers that are in the audience, you also know that Airbnb plays a pretty significant role in the design community, and I know it's really important to you guys to do that. Just tell us a little bit about, what is it that you do in the design community, and why is it important to Airbnb?
Yeah, for sure. So Brian Chesky and Joe Gubbay, our founders, are actually designers. They both trained at RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, and design is at the forefront of almost every single thing we do as a company. And you mentioned we're quite active in the design community. We have a really popular design blog, and we host design meetups once a month at our headquarters in San Francisco.
And I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Airbnb design blog. It's really cool. Now, Alan, you guys, your team actually, you play a pretty interesting role in Airbnb. You are surrounded by many other teams. You do a lot of work with different internal and external guys. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what the team does.
For sure. So I lead a team at Airbnb called Global Product Marketing. And we're actually the most cross-functional team at Airbnb. And we're responsible for two things. helping bring our technology to life for our users through creative communication, as well as extending our brand promise through our product experience. And so the designers on my team are like creative athletes. We work across all the different design teams at Airbnb. So that's experience design, production design, all the way through our external agencies and creative partners.
I like that term, creative athletes. Can I use that?
Absolutely.
All right, awesome.
Yours.
Thanks. And so, yeah, actually, what you guys do, we've seen that quite a bit when we talk to a number of the design-led companies out there. There's just more and more of this movement of working with many, many different teams. Obviously, that creates and presents many challenges as well. What are some of the challenges you guys face when you work across so many teams?
For sure. So there are a number of them. One that comes to mind is asset management. If you look at the inputs and outputs across our design workflow, managing the different components themselves is almost like a full-time job.
Right, and I'm assuming you guys are using style guides and dealing with a lot of cross-pollination across the other members of the teams. That's with assets. What about the actual design files themselves? Obviously, you have multiple designers working on designs. How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, for sure. Two other big challenges that we have is just version control across our files, which can be especially difficult, especially since we move so fast as a business, and also just compatibility across the different tools we use and different types of software. It can really make collaboration as a designer really difficult.
And when you have multiple designers collaborating, are you all just merging your changes in? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's quite a manual process, but we do the best we can with what we have.
Gotcha. Hey, listen, Alan. Thank you very much for your perspective. Awesome. That's great. Everyone, let's give Alan a round. Thank you. What Alan just talked about, it's really a common theme, right? I think all of us deal with this. The need to manage your assets and your designs, as well as collaborate with your team. It's something that comes up time and time and time again. But you've also told us that disjointed storage sharing workflows are a pain, and they don't solve the problem for you either. So today, we're going to take a sneak peek at how Adobe XD is going to help you manage your assets, work with your designs, and your teams together. So one of the things you've told us is that behind any great design, there's typically a style guide that everybody on the team is using. And the style guide plays such an important role that we've actually reimagined how we're going to bring libraries into XD. So let me show you how that works. Here I am in my design file. I'm going to open up my libraries panel. And you're going to notice that in my libraries panel, all of the elements are already pre-populated. That's because with this library, we have a one-to-one mapping with the design file itself. So everything in the library maps to the design file. To show you what I mean, I'm going to come over here. Let's choose a button. I'm going to grab this button. I'm going to select a different color. And when I select a different color for the button, you're going to see that that color immediately gets updated directly to the library panel. So I'm guaranteed to be in sync with what I'm doing. Now, that's great for me to control and have a view into my design. What's even more powerful is when I can use that library panel to make global changes across my design. So let's go over to this side of the screen here. You'll see that I've got a number of artboards on the screen that have a light color blue in the background. Now, if I wanted to play around with that and see what it looked like with a different color, I'd have to go into every single artboard and make that change, but not anymore. With the new libraries panel, I can find that color, I can open it up, and as I select different colors, XD immediately finds all of the elements, all of the instances of that color across my entire design file and changes them for me in real time. Unbelievably fast way for me to be able to make changes inside of the design. The team has taken this even one step further. Oftentimes, when you're working on a design, you're working with a style guide, you have an approved set of colors that you're working with. Sometimes you're asked to replace one color with the other. Rather than having to hunt and peck and make a bunch of changes to be able to do that, let's say I've got this color purple that I want, and I want to replace that blue I just made a change to, I can simply grab the color, drop it on top of the one that I want, and immediately it's updated across the entire design file. Super easy way for me to be able to work. Now, one of the other things I often want to be able to do is not only work with my libraries inside my design file, but I really want to be able to share them with the team. This is really where we collaborate with our extended team. So we've thought about that as well. We have extended the publishing mechanism inside of XD so that now, instead of not just being able to publish a prototype, I can now publish a library. So that when I come online here, we'll switch over, I now have not only my prototype tab, but I have a library tab. And here I have a style guide that is published and available across the entire team that we can work with. We can share colors, character styles, all of the elements of our design live, which is fantastic. So this is a great way for me to work with my assets and with my team on my assets. The other thing that Alan mentioned was working with my design, the different versions of my design. So let's go back in here, and we're going to open up XD again. And one thing I want you to notice as I open this up is something up at the file name here. You'll see that we have a little cloud icon next to it. That's because this XD design is actually being stored in Creative Cloud. And that means I get access to some new functionality, which is pretty cool. The first thing I want to show you is something we call visual versioning. So I'm going to move over to the part of the design that I'm working on. It has the mobile apps, and I'm working on the website. And I've got this square search bar here. And I'd actually done an earlier version of this design when I had a round search bar. I want to get that one. Typically, I'd have to go back and open up a whole bunch of different design files, try and find that and bring that in, but not anymore. Because this design file is stored in Creative Cloud, it is managing and storing everything for me. So I'm going to open up the new visual versioning toolbar. And this is actually a timeline of everything that's taken place in this design file while it's been stored in Creative Cloud. All the saves I've made, all of the saves the team or that Creative Cloud has made for me. And if I want to go back to the past, I simply click a marker, and I can begin to see exactly what this design looks like previously while keeping context directly while I'm in the design here. There's that circular search bar I want. When I come back, I can interact with it directly. I can grab it, copy it. I'm going to bring my versioning toolbar back up. I'm going to come back to the present again. I'm simply going to delete it, paste in a brand new one, and in a couple of seconds, I've just done something that used to be a real drag, right? OK, so the other thing, of course, when I create a new version is now everyone else I'm working with is out of sync, and I want to make sure that we can solve that as well. So we can publish versions of our design just like we do with our prototypes and libraries. Of course, why not? So we have a brand new view in the browser just for that. I'll click over here. You'll see that it's called the spec view. When I click on that, this is a view for my developers. They can see the latest version of the design that I'm working with. They can get colors. They can get fonts. They can interact directly on the screen with this and actually get measurements. They can get code snippets, everything they need to bring my design to life, always ensuring that they're working with the latest published version of the design. Now, the other thing that we heard as we talked to Alan is we also have, of course, multiple designers working in the same design file at the same time, which is a big job to sync all of that stuff together. Now, one of the things that's really great about XD is it was built from the ground up for performance. That means we can have hundreds of artboards in the same design file. We can have Joan's mobile app. We can have my website. We can all be working together. The power of having an XD design file in Creative Cloud means that we can do that together now. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works. So first of all, I'm going to say hello to Joan again. Joan, thank you for sticking with us.
No problem, Paul.
I appreciate it. OK. And Joan, we've been working in this design file together, so why don't you open it up as well? So Joan's going to open up her version of the design file. And while she's doing that, if we can, let's see if we can get both screens up on the main screen here. There we go. And mine's zoomed in a little bit differently than Joan's, so you can sort of tell who's working on each one here. And now I'm sure you've all probably have some familiarity with collaborating on something in real time. Maybe it's a document in a browser, maybe even a prototype. And you've told us that's fine for making simple edits. But when you want to do real design work, you need the power of a native application like XD. Well, we believe you should be able to have your cake and eat it too. So let me show you how that works. First of all, I'm in the same design file as Joan here, and one thing I want you to notice on the right-hand side is we have a presence indicator. It is red for Joan, it is green for me. This is how we know who's working in the design with us at the same time. Now, as soon as I go into the artboard here and start to make an edit, you'll see that there's a badge that appears on the screen here that says PG is editing. This lets everybody in the design file know that I'm working on this artboard, so Joan can see that as well. Now I want to make a couple of changes here, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab an image, maybe drop it in the background. Text is a little washed out, so let's make that red. And of course, you'll notice that as I'm making these changes, Joan is seeing them all take place at the same time. Let's say in Point Loma. You'll also notice that we've taken collaboration one step further than just at the document level. We're actually doing collaboration at the artboard level. What that means is that as I make changes in the design, Everybody else can see those changes, but the artboard is locked because I'm using it, because we don't want designers coming in and stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, that's right. So I think these changes look good, Paul. So I'm actually going to use the same image that Paul was using in my mobile application, because I definitely want that both the mobile and the web experience to be similar. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to copy that image from Paul's artboard, and I can see that it's locked. So that makes me happy that I'm not actually going to make any edits to his document. But I can go ahead, I can copy that image and paste that right into my artboard. And I'm done.
And there you have it, folks. That is real-time design collaboration in a native application inside of XD. Joan, I just want to thank you for your collaborative expertise. I literally could not have done this demo without you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Get it? Collaboration. Let's just do a quick recap. We've seen visual versioning and libraries, everything that I need to control my own assets and my own designs right inside of XD, where I work 8 hours a day. We've seen specs and publishing libraries as style guides, everything I need to collaborate with my extended team so that we can all work together. And we've seen artboard collaboration, real-time designers working together in the same design file because it's stored in Creative Cloud. And this is just some of the ways that we are improving XD and Creative Cloud to solve the real-world problems that today's design-led companies are facing. And of course, just like everything else in Adobe XD, it will be available as a cloud public beta coming soon. Can't wait to see what you guys think. OK. Thank you. So we've talked a lot about how the world is changing for experience design. Let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about the future of graphic design. Now, in the last decade, there has been a shift in how designers and advertising agencies are creating photorealistic images. It has moved from a photography-based workflow to one which relies on 2D and 3D elements. Now, why 3D? Well, 3D provides much deeper flexibility and creative control for designers. Now, we've been chatting with some of the leading agencies out there about how they're adopting this technology and how they see the industry changing. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
We are a brand that builds things for creators, with creators.
What we do is we solve big problems, come up with good ideas, and try and make an impact.
I think that design is understood in a completely new way. I think we're growing up with a generation that design is at the forefront and the baseline of everything that we see.
Every designer is always really excited and keen on having how to showcase, how to promote, how would my product look the best.
Every project is a house on fire.
Design is constantly having to keep up with technology. To be limited by technology is our absolute worst nightmare.
As the future of where things are going, the need for 3D is going to increase exponentially.
3D can feel really scary for designers.
Oh God, how are we going to be able to use that?
Well, I'm good at this. I don't know if I'm good at that. It's a new tool, and it's a pretty gnarly learning curve. The photo world and design world are blending in this way because the design is becoming more photographic. The photo world, there's this trend to be more graphic in the compositions. So 3D is like this sweet spot in the middle. One thing that I see that would be really beneficial is just roughing out ideas for product photography. The idea to get a sense for what your photo shoot's gonna look like and feel like is really helpful because it saves you money and it saves you time.
Obviously, as you plan shoots, for example, with athletes, you start to look at a major logistic confluence of factors like having samples, having the athlete, having the place, and all coming together at the right point in time. And we have only barely scratched the surface of what one can do by avoiding that whole hassle and bringing in together things virtually.
We're in this massive transition period where we're about to hit.
It breaks the chains off of limiting us on ideas and really opens that space to really ideate about anything.
As you can see, 3D is really going to change the way that we work, and there's a lot of advantages in being able to use 3D. But you've also told us there are challenges as well, and it is particularly painful for small teams and individual designers. Well, today, I am really excited to share with you a brand new product called Project Felix. Felix is a new compositing tool that allows you to take 2D and 3D elements and create photorealistic images built specifically for graphic designers. Just as we fundamentally rethought the authoring paradigms for Adobe, for experience design with Adobe XD, we are doing the same thing with Project Felix. So to show you how Felix works and what it's all about, please help me welcome Zorana Gee.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. You like what you see so far? It's going to get better. We're going to hear a better whoop from you guys later. So, as Paul mentioned, Project Felix is a new tool for designers to enable us to create photorealistic imagery using both 3D and 2D assets without needing to be a 3D expert. Let me jump right in to show you what I'm talking about. So here's Project Felix, and I'm working on a comp for a client in developing a juice brand. I've created this completely inside of Project Felix, and I'm just going to use it right now to show you the UI, kind of walk you through the UI. Right now, I'm in a render mode, and I'm actually going to hop back into this design mode, and this is where I'll be primarily working. On the left-hand side, we have a single CC Libraries panel that has not only all your libraries, but has all the content you need to get started, in addition to all the content that you're going to use throughout the application, a single panel for all your assets. On the right-hand side, very similar to Adobe XD, we have a single contextual properties panel that shows you the information you need based on what you have selected on canvas. So Project Felix itself has both a working canvas space in addition to a real-time render preview down here at the bottom. The working canvas space gives you the fastest interaction possible, so it gives you that speed. It doesn't render for all the final effects, but it gives you that speed you need while working. Now down here, the render preview, this is really cool because this actually gives you a real-time render preview of your work while you're working before you actually go into the render mode. This is super cool because it gives you the best what you see is what you get experience while working with these effects. And you can expand and collapse this window at any time. Now what I'm going to do is actually start from scratch. I'm going to recreate that comp, and you're going to see how quickly I can go from nothing to something very cool in just a matter of minutes. Now, the first step is getting some assets. Not always easy to do, especially when I'm trying to get 3D content. But as I mentioned, this product has everything you need to get started. I'm super excited to announce that Adobe Stock is also introducing 3 new types of content to support the Felix workflows. Go to the stock page and click into this new category. You can see we have thousands of new models, lights, and materials that are all optimized in Project Felix. Now, for that particular comp, let's click into Models. And I want to start with a bottle. So I'll type bottle, and a bunch I can choose from here. And I'll find the one that I like, and when I do, I can just click license it, and it's going to download to my CC libraries. You guys have already seen us do this, so let's just hop back into Project Felix. I'll double-click the bottle and add that to my canvas. And now let me break apart this bottle a little bit so you can actually see what it's made up of. This particular model came in 3 separate pieces. It has an exterior bottle component, the glass that you see. It has a label component, and an also interior juice component that you can see is blue by default. Now, the exterior glass component is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this look, the material, the glass. The next thing I want to do is change the materials of some of the other parts to go for the exact look that I want. So let's choose that interior juice component, and I want to add a new material to that. As I mentioned, we have hundreds of new materials that are available on stock, and a big subset of this available directly inside the application. So it allows me to work really quickly. So I have that juice component chosen, and let's just find a nice red liquid, and I'll double-click it, and it can add it right there. Pretty cool. Now the next thing is this label. I have a comp, actually, that I'm working on inside of Photoshop that I've completely optimized and created here, and I want to just use this file. Well, I can do that. In Felix, I can add any format to any material, but I've actually created a material here just for demonstration purposes that I can double-click and add to this. Whoops, wrong component. Let's get the juice back on there. Choose the label. Let's get that material on there. And then now this is really cool because you can see that actually it's wrapping around the geometry really nicely. But further, it's actually respecting all the transparency and layers that I've set up inside of Photoshop. And even as I move the camera around, you can see that it's actually absorbing all the light scenario that's in this particular canvas. All right. Let's expand the render preview and see how things are looking. I think this is looking pretty good. But the next thing I do notice is that that bottle cap is not the right color. To be exactly on brand, I need this to be a specific blue. And as I mentioned earlier, this particular bottle came in 3 pieces, right? The exterior bottle component is actually just 1 piece. So typically what I need to do at this point is hand this off to the guy who created this model, or hand this off to my 3D guy, and have him break apart the polygons, break apart the pieces that I need, and then bring it back in here. Definitely not easy to do and pretty time-consuming. Well, we don't need to do that. We make selections easy in Felix. Are you guys familiar with the magic wand in Photoshop? No? Really? That sounded like a no to me. We have the magic wand in Felix. What that means is I can easily select, as easy as it is to make selections inside of Photoshop, directly in 3D. So I can come over here and select different pieces of this, and we're going to logically find different partitions. And the way we find edges is we determine edges based on patterns, curves, symmetry, shape, and then we're using machine learning to determine which of these variables should take on the greatest weight when finding an edge. And just like the magic wand, I can shift-click or alt-click to add to my subtraction. And just like the magic wand, I can go ahead and increase the tolerance just to be a little bit more liberal in how we find edges. And there you go. You see I've selected out both the bottle as well as the bottle cap as well as the safety ring. And now all I need to do is change that material. Let's find a matte plastic. And I'm pretty happy with that, although I need to change that to be the exact blue, right? All the materials that we have inside of Felix are customizable. So I can change many properties, but if I just want to change the color of this, I can open up the color picker. Let's just darken that a little bit so that it's the exact blue that I'm looking for, and I think that looks great. Now I just want to add a couple of, all right, pretty easy. Now I just want to add a couple more pieces to this, a couple more models to this, just to fill out the composite a little bit. I've already downloaded a couple models like you just saw me do, and I have them here in my CC libraries. And let's go ahead and just add cherries. And I have a nice splash component that I'll add. The cherries are looking pretty good. I just need to rotate the splash a little bit so that it's not blocking the actual front of the bottle. OK, and I'm going to change the material so that it's consistent with the juice material. Let's add that. And expand the render preview. That's looking really cool. I love the way that looks, the lighting, the material, the glass, the refraction, all that great stuff that I didn't have to think about. So it's not only important for me to have my object look realistic, but it's also really important for me to have this look realistic in terms of how I will be communicating the concept, how I'm going to be selling this idea, right? And where else is the best place to sell a refreshing cherry blast but one of these beaches outside of our conference hall that we're not all at right now? So I want to add some images, some beach images that I took a couple days ago to this actual background. And it's really easy to do that. I can select background layer and add any graphic from the background from CC libraries, or of course I can import any of the images that I just took from yesterday. Let's add this one. All right. That's looking pretty good. The next thing I just need to do really quick is just change the resolution of this, 1920 by 1080, so that it matches these ginormous screens behind me. And this is good. And this is actually one of the benefits of working with 3D, right? I can change the resolution of this at any time and target any screen that I want and re-render this, and I get high fidelity output. All right, off the bat, you're going to see that this doesn't look right. Right? The object is way too big, it's out of scale. And typically what I need to do, what I'm doing right now, is picking up these camera tools and moving this around so that I'm actually trying to figure out where the horizon line is or where the ground is of this photograph and trying to match the object to that. Well, we make this really easy in Project Felix. Essentially, in a single click, align to horizon, I can click that and we're automatically going to snap the perspective of the camera to the vanishing point lines in the 2D photograph. And now you can see that as I'm moving this around and scaling this around, it always looks like it's sitting on the ground of that photograph, again, making it look more like the object actually belongs there. So this is cool. Let's take a look at the render preview. I like this. It's sitting on the ground. It's looking natural. I like the materials I've set up, but I'm sure some of you guys are critiquing the reflections and the lighting right now, right? It doesn't look right. And that's because it's taking on that default lighting in this application. If I'm using a background image, I want to actually use those exact light sources, right? And there's a couple ways that I can do this, traditionally. There's one way is I could figure out where the lights are, what type of lights they are, where the positions are, the fall off, the angle, all that fun stuff, or have my 3D guy do it, this hypothetical 3D guy, that is. Or I can actually take my 360-degree pano, go back to this exact location, take a 360 image of this, and wrap this around my scene so that my object is taking on the exact hue, colors, light, et cetera, the mood of this exact image. Well, both methods are really complicated, really out of reach, and really expensive. Again, lighting is easy inside of Felix. Let me collapse this. In a single click, again, we can click Create Light from Image, and we're automatically going to generate that 360-degree pano from this background image. If I click Adjust Lighting, you can see this is the pano that we've created, and now we're using this as the light source wrapped around my image so that my object actually naturally looks like it belongs there more. Let's expand the render preview. Now you can see the neck of the bottle is a nice blue. It's actually taking on the right lighting, and I can even adjust the threshold a little bit if I really want to clamp this down so the lights are really coming from that far right, and boost the intensity up. And then now you can see that actually the lighting looks more accurate, right? You get a bright highlight on the side of the image. You see the shadows of the cherries are actually coming towards the bottom left of the image, is what you would expect if there was a bright sunlight in the upper right. Things are looking good, and I'm actually ready to move on and render this. I want to bring this also into Photoshop, where I can access a wealth of features that I really love and that I'm really comfortable with. So let's go into the render mode and start this render. Now, essentially what Felix is doing right now is calculating for all that advanced lighting, that light setup that I created, how that light responds to all the materials, the refraction of the glass, the reflection. And it's also calculating for all those advanced shadows, how those shadows should respond to the light that I've set up. Rendering doesn't always mean go get a cup of coffee, especially if you're using Project Felix. We have state-of-the-art photorealistic rendering here. And in fact, in less time that it took me to say this is live rendering on stage, I'm actually pretty happy with this result. And I can bring this into Photoshop. You can stop your render at any time, and if I want to bring this into Photoshop, I can just say, create a Photoshop layered file for me. Or in this case, I'm actually going to create a PNG snapshot and bring this into Photoshop, and let's go ahead and open that. Here's this file. Great. And this is the cool part now. I can actually just treat this like a photograph inside of Photoshop. But this is cooler because I actually created this completely from scratch. I have complete ownership of the whole process. If I need to change the label, the cherries, the objects, the color, the materials, the background, any of that, I can easily do so back in Project Felix. Now, for this particular file, I just actually want to increase that bloom. I want to brighten that bloom effect a little bit, just to really push back that object more and make it a little bit more photographic. So let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And I'm going to add a lens blur and increase the specular highlights. Really boost that up crazy to really bring that out. All right, got to wait for it here. This is the magic of Photoshop, right? Set that to screen, set this down to 20% or so. And then now you can see that, if I turn off this layer, this is great. It has great saturation, has a lot of contrast. I really like the way that looks. However, if I turn this layer on, it just adds a little bit more of that atmospheric effect, really pushing back that object into the photograph and just being more pleasing to the eye. I really like the way that looks much better. So that's the power of using Project Felix together with Photoshop. So I've been on the Photoshop team for 15 years. Yes, I really, really love the team. A lot more than that hypothetical 3D guy. But, I've talked to a lot of you guys about these types of improvements, these types of workflows, and what we can do to improve on these types of workflows. And let's face it, working with 3D is really challenging and can be really hard. But we're committed, and today we're introducing a tool that balances power and ease of use for all designers. And this is Project Felix. Thank you.
Thank you, Zorana, and your hypothetical 3D guy. Project Felix is being built just like XD out in the open. You'll be able to get access to it as a public beta, which will be available at the end of this year. So we're really looking forward to seeing what you think of Felix. Now, as we've covered with Felix and with XD, we've shown you some new ways that we are reimagining the tools and the systems that all of us are going to use to create the content of tomorrow. But we're not just challenged with creating the content of tomorrow, we're also challenged by how much content we need to create, which is only compounded by the number of screens and the number of channels that all of that content has to go. How many times have you been asked to create a quick graphic and then spent the rest of the day trying to make sure it looks good on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and a social blog post and on and on and on and on? The pressure on all of us to create content that just looks good everywhere is enormous. Earlier this year, we introduced a new set of tools and services that were specifically built to help anybody quickly create content and communicate an idea socially or online. And we called it Adobe Spark. And what got us really excited is just how many designers have started picking up Spark when they need to create something really quick that they know is going to look good everywhere. In fact, we have been so inspired that we have actually started to add new features to Spark just for you. So to show you how Spark works today, as well as where it's beginning to go, I would like to invite to the stage Michael Ninness to show us Adobe Spark.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. So Adobe Spark, it's an integrated web and mobile solution for creating and sharing digital content. Today, Spark lets you create and publish 3 different formats: post, page, and video. I'll give you a brief tour of all 3 of those in just a moment. For now, I need to create some content to promote a nonprofit organization called Pedal Revolution. And I'm going to start by creating some graphics to post on social media with Spark Post. You begin by telling Post what you want your graphic to say and choosing a size or the social media platform you want to target. I'll choose Instagram for now and click Continue. Post creates a starter design for me, but I'm in complete control of what this design is going to end up looking like. This is just to get me started. I'm going to begin by uploading my own photo. Just navigating to the photo I want to use, and we're going to use these bikes here. Now, all 3 of the formats in Spark are powered by themes, and those control design elements like fonts, color, layout, motion. It varies depending on the format we're working on. These are not static templates. These are clickable design choices that you can apply to your content, and makes it really quick just to get some inspiration and get some starting points. And of course, you can customize them as you go as well. I'm going to go ahead and choose that theme as my starting point. That's great. I'm going to go to my background tab, and I'm going to remove the photo filter that was part of that theme because I just want the clean image there. I'm going to go ahead and select the text, and I want that text to pop off that background a little bit more, so I'm going to go to the shape options, and I can choose a background shape to go behind my text. I'm just going to choose a simple square there. Go ahead and save that. Post has magic text resize, so as I resize that text frame, you'll see it automatically lays out that text in a pleasing way. Pretty difficult to do that in other tools here. So I'm going to go ahead and center that. That's looking good. Now, all the Spark formats can be created in the browser, but they also have companion mobile apps as well. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the iPhone here, open up Spark Post, and you'll see that design that I started on the web is already here waiting for me to customize and continue editing. So I'll tap that open. That looks great. The first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit more text to that. I didn't get the text quite right the first time. So I'm going to select all. Paste that in there, which wasn't there, so I'll just add it manually to Pedal Revolution. Nothing more nerve-wracking than typing on a tiny phone in front of 10,000 people. All right, so I have more text now. I might want to relay out that text just to play around with how that looks. That looks good there, awesome. And I'm ready to share this to Instagram. I can just tap the share button, choose the social network that I want to take it to, and then continue on my way. But we said earlier, I want to make this design look good on all the social media platforms. So Post has a wonderful feature. It's called Magic Resize. I tap the Resize button, and with a single tap, let's say I need this for Pinterest, or Twitter, or Facebook, or back to Instagram. All right, so that's Spark Post in a nutshell. Let's switch to our second format, Spark Video. And Spark Video is great for creating animated videos, perfect for sharing on social media to tell your story and get a message out. I'm going to go ahead and open up a project that I had started earlier. And you'll see that Spark Video uses a simple slide-based metaphor instead of a complicated timeline. On every single slide, you can record your voice, you can add a background image, you can add text, logos, icons, and so forth. And coming soon to Spark Video, you'll be able to add and insert video clips as well. It's as simple as tapping a plus button and navigating to where your video clips are located. I'm going to go ahead and grab this clip. By default, Spark Video trims it down to the first 3 seconds of that. You can, of course, move the trim to a different section or elongate or shorten the trim. I'll just go with the default and tap Done. Now, I want this video to continue playing on the second slide, and I don't want to deal with having to synchronize the video clips across those 2 different slides. Spark Video makes this drop dead simple. I'm just going to tap the Continue from Here button. It's going to automatically create a second slide for me, and it automatically moves that playhead over to where it stopped from the previous slide. So it'll just play synchronously, whatever, across those 2 slides. All right, I'm going to add my text to the top of this slide as well. I'll type in your commute. Looking good, tap Done. And then as a final step, I can also add a background music track to my entire video. Spark Video ships with many video tracks that you can choose from, or you can also upload your own if you have one that you want to use. Looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the finished video. All right, pretty cool. All right, let's bring this home by talking about that third format in Spark Page, which is used to create beautiful responsive web pages that look great on every device. You can use it to create a wide variety of rich modern documents, things like presentations, proposals, stories, one-page websites, and much more. You begin by clicking the plus button. By now you should figure out if you can click a plus button, you can use Adobe Spark. So we're going to add a title to our story. Recycle your cycle. Great. And we'll add a cover image to start our story. Again, we'll navigate to where our photos are located. And I'm going to choose this image here as my cover image. Now, we're creating responsive web pages here. So one of the great features of Spark Page is the ability to set a focal point for all of your images. If I turn that on, you'll see there's a little preview in the upper right-hand corner showing what this image would look like in a vertical-oriented screen like a phone. I can move this dot around to wherever I think is the most important part of the image. So regardless what screen size or orientation, that's always going to focus the right portion of the image. Go ahead and click Save. That looks good. I want this title to be at the top. I don't want it to compete with the image. And just like you saw in Post, all the formats are powered by themes. I'm going to choose a different theme here to choose different typefaces and colors and so forth. And then I can just continue adding additional content by clicking the plus button and continuing on. Instead of doing that, completing this document, I'm going to switch to a document that's partially completed so I can show off a few more of the editing features of Spark Page. This paragraph, we want it to be a block quote, so we'll just click the block quote button. That looks a little bit better. For this image, I want it to be a window instead of an inline. This gives me a nice reveal effect as I scroll. That looks pretty cool. As we get into this section of the page, this is what we call a glide show. So the background image zooms subtly up, and I can have an option for a floating caption bar as it goes by as well. And then to finish this off, I'm going to add a photo grid. Click the plus button again, click photo grid, and navigate to the images that I want to use for that photo grid. I'm going to go ahead and select those 3. For this one, I want it to be bigger than the other 2. That looks good. We'll click Save. And there's my photo grid with just a couple clicks. We'll just scroll back up to the top. And again, just like all the other formats, we can edit on the go with the companion mobile app as well. Let's open up Spark Page on the iPhone here. It'll synchronize the edit that I just made over on the web. And we'll tap that open, and you'll see it's automatically been formatted to look great on a phone as well. Okay. Thank you. Now, it's important to know this is not just a preview app. This is the full-blown editor in your pocket. So anytime you see that plus sign, you can add more content. You can tap in any element to edit it, and so forth. Pretty cool. All right. Lastly, let's switch back to the browser one more time. Coming soon to Adobe Spark, you're going to be able to create your own branded custom themes. So all the formats come with themes built in. We showed those earlier. And you can see Pedal Revolution has created their own custom theme where you can choose your brand's colors, your brand's fonts, upload your brand logos and your other assets. And Spark will be able to create branded themes for you to use across all of these formats. So with a single click, this page is now using their custom brand look and feel. Pretty awesome. OK, so in just a few minutes, I was able to create beautiful graphics optimized for every social media platform with Spark Post. I was able to create a beautiful, compelling video vignette, perfect to post on social media with Spark Video. And I created a gorgeous modern document as a responsive web page with Spark Page. That's your whirlwind tour of Adobe Spark. Virtual drop mic. Thank you.
That was a lot of content. That was a lot of content. So we released the Spark service in May of this year. You guys can access it at spark.adobe.com, and you can join the over 3 million people that are already using Spark to create amazing content. So, as you can see from the section and all the things that we've covered, we believe that the future of design is, of course, about being able to create great content. But even more than ever, it's about the people and it's about the workflows that surround the content that you're creating. The new solutions that we shared with you today, they marry the best of design with the best of collaboration, and we are just getting started. So thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Paul kind of had a lot to say, didn't he? Thought I wasn't going to get out of here again, spend some time with you guys. So as you see, we are fundamentally rethinking the role that our creative tools and Creative Cloud play in the design process. Adobe XD is evolving new workflows that make iteration, exploration, and collaboration easier than ever before. And Project Felix. With Project Felix now, you can quickly create photorealistic compositions, merging together 3D and 2D without having to become a 3D expert. And finally, we hope we sparked your interest. I'm sorry. With Adobe Spark, making it easy to leverage your existing design assets and to publish to multiple channels automatically. And you'll see a lot more functionality coming that's specific to you, designers and creators. We're doing this all in the open. We're doing this all in close collaboration with all of you, the creative community. So thank you for all of your participation, and please continue to give us feedback.